Welcome back to the next episode of Warship Strategy here on Fault Line. I am Sir Venom IK.
I'm Mr. Swole PT.
Breaks down as a Tier 4 to Tier 7 map. It's 42 kilometers wide by 42 kilometers tall. Very interesting, very unique perspective of these maps we'll go into right now. All right, now Mr. Swole is going to take us into the map breakdown and all the special features that this map has to offer. It has a turd island. It also has balls in the mouth island. Mr. Swole?
All right, so we see that we got another horizontal gameplay map with the caps 3-point domination mode, right? Caps are spread equally amongst the E and F line, so dead center. You see A is off to the west, and it has a unique set of islands kind of blocking that eastern side of the cap, with one little small island kind of in the north and in the south that offer these kind of narrow channel passages from both vertically and horizontally into the cap. All right, looking at B, you see that it is out in the dead center, and there is a unique set of island chains kind of bordering it from the peripheral side in the north and the south, offering some unique lanes to pass through, while C is out in the far east side, and it is blockaded by both a large island covering the span on the east, and then you see two islands that are really taking up the majority of the cap in that western side of the area. And again, we have a unique channel moving horizontally through the sea cap, so this map offers some both unique horizontal and vertical lanes as you come through.
Today we're going to look at a little different perspective here, as generally Mr. Swole does all of the driving around. I'm going to drive you around on my approach that I like to take if I'm in a destroyer or if I'm in a cruiser or battleship going toward A from the top side. Now, if you want to approach this island from the inside, it's going to look a little something like this on your map. You have a really nice, pretty island with trees on the left, and you have the island that's going to protect your ass on the right. Hashtag protect your ass. You also have the big long island here on the left side that will protect you from shots coming in from down the way. So what I like to do here, if I'm coming on the inside of the island, depending on what is coming at me, what has been spotted yet, what I'm spotting, and what destroyers they have on their team, I like to come in here. Guess what, boys? Just like Mr. Swole said in our last video, hug the edge of the cap. Number one priority, drop these torpedoes in the channels. You never know, you might get a freaking hit. And, you never know, you might get a detonation too. Also, you can watch this way for people coming around here, or you can watch this side here. This is always a good channel here for coming across from the bottom spawn. And you're going to get some spots here, battleships, cruisers, whatever's coming in your area. Also, you will see a lot of people in this zone. Right here next to this little nugget of an island here. The nugget of the island. So as we're floating around the edge of the map, until I am absolutely spotted, I keep my smoke on my boat. I do not just go willy-nilly go in there to a cap and pop my smoke immediately. For two reasons. Number one, they didn't know where you were, so if you go into a cap and immediately pop your smoke, they know exactly where you are. Number two, it invites torpedoes. So if it invites torpedoes, that means that anybody that's coming in behind you is going to be subject to taking those torpedoes. All right, so now we've seen the approach from the left side of the island. The right side of the island plays pretty much exactly the same, and except for when you came in here, you went in front of this island and across, leaving yourself broadside and subject to return torpedoes. If you come in from the left side of the island here, you will be able to skirt the edge of the map and maybe even hit your brakes. And guess what? You're going to be spotted by any DD that's coming around this island here. You're going to get spotted. It's going to happen. Already have your mind set up and be ready to drop that smoke. But since you've come across the outside of this island, you have an escape route. Guess what? Turn, drop your smoke, and get out. Always want to have escape route. Like every other video that we've put out here, drop your freaking smoke and get out. Use your escape route. Now let's take a look at a cruiser approach here. there's several different approaches here that you can take from the northern spawn into A with a cruiser. Number one, you have this little nugget island and this nugget island here, which we're seeing on the map. That's the left nugget island. That's the right nugget island. You have several different approaches. You can put yourself on the edge of the island on the outside, namely here. Or you could put yourself on the inside of the island, namely this general vicinity. A third option is to not come this direction at all, not come from the top of the left nugget island, and go to the right of the left nugget island in between nugget island and the big island number 2. The third approach and the final approach that I like to take here in a cruiser, I'm going to come in between this island here, which is Nugget Island, right here, and the big island separating the north from the south here. That's right, we'll call this the Mason-Dixon line of this map, or fault line, as it were. Giggity. Now, for my approach here, I like to get as close to this island as I possibly can on the left side. That way, when I get up here, I have a visual line on 2 different locations. Now, this does put the nose of my boat out there into the middle, but I can also quickly reverse or quickly slow down or turn myself in toward the rest of the island to where I can dodge the incoming torpedoes. Here's your sight line here, right there on the right side of the island, and then you have shots over the left side of the island. And if you have a good torpedo arc in a cruiser, you can drop your torpedoes in here to help out the destroyers. Those are some of the approaches that I like to take in a destroyer and a cruiser. Now, as for battleship approach, what do you think, Mr. Swole, for battleship approach on A?
Now, really, as you're moving across, so most of the time, if you're spawning in the center, you got to watch as you're patrolling east, those open lane shots coming from the B side, as we call that Citadel Alley, moving through that area. But once you're over there, really what you want to do is use those islands located in that kind of DE area right above the cap north of A to kind of block a lot of the line of sight, and you're more able to put yourself at an angle and utilize your firepower. The last thing you want to do is sail out horizontally any further than probably the halfway point through the cap. So right there in that 2 grid, unless you see an open lane for yourself to push in, because you're going to be sitting broadside that entire time, and guarantee the enemy ships are going to be moving more vertically, and so they'll have the angle on you, able to penetrate your ship while you're doing minimal damage.
Mark, this just in, Dateline Torpedo Alley. This will show you how to approach Torpedo Alley in the proper way. All right, boys and girls, it's time for the worst place on the map, what everybody thinks, but can be the most rewarding and most fulfilling mentally if you do it this way. Ladies and gentlemen, it's C. It's Torpedo Alley. Nobody likes to come down here, but I love it. What about you, Swole?
I think it's a fun place to go. It unlike the north map where going out to the far side cap really blockades you, with a map in the smaller size and the smaller section of the islands, getting C, it does take you slightly out of the fight for a bit, but there's usually ships flowing over here, and you're not out very long, so the time is much shorter, and it's much more feasible for even battleships to take this lane as you're coming up through and try to secure this cap. So
here's the approach that I like to take when going into Torpedo Alley, or C cap as they call it with a little air quotes. So I like to take the tight end island shot. I want to get as close to this island as I can so I can minimize the visual that the enemy is going to have on me for as long as possible. There's one good thing and one bad thing about it is, number one, they're not going to see you. The bad thing is you're not going to see them. And you'll see here on the top side of this island why the vision of the bottom is superior than the vision from the top side is because we have this little outing right here. We have this little outing right here, and they are able to drop torps across the front of this island from way back over here. Let's take a look at the mini-map. Right here in this section, they can drop torps coming across here, and we cannot see them coming across. So if you're going to make the approach like I'm making it right here, is you're going to be tight to the island, right here, right here, right here, and you're going to be careful, and you're going to be very, very patient, waiting for that first set of destroyer torps to come across. And you will see those come across this way. You'll see them come from this area here all the way across. The good thing about this is that if you stay this tight to the island, they are not going to be able to hit you with a torpedo and kill you right away. The second thing I like to do is make sure that I have help. I never come here without a squad or a division with me. I will not do this. I will not be on this side by myself in a game. What about you, Swole?
Yeah, I agree. The solo play for this is kind of risky, even in a sneaky destroyer such as a Minakaze. If any enemies catch you out, you can call yourself a quick back to port.
When you're dropping smoke to protect your teammates here, I like to start it at that island and then basically extend the island out as far as my boat and my smoke line will get me, so they can move in and start helping me as I move out of my smoke, as y'all are seeing here, and we can spot what's coming around this corner. Now, sight lines that you need to look at for Charlie. Number one, obvious, boom, right here. You're gonna see people right here on this corner of the island. You're going to see them coming out here on the backside left of this island. You're also going to see people in the channel, in this general area. All right, so Mr. Swole, we've talked about A, we've talked about C, and what you got for B, brother?
All right, so as in showing all the other ones, hang on, that was terrible. 3, 2, 1. All right, well, when moving into B in a destroyer here, what I like to do is, of course, get the eyes out as quick as possible. So I'm going to make my way to the B cap as fast as possible through whatever area I spawn through. So if I spawn on that dead center 5-6 line, I'm going to rush through that first gap between those two islands over there. If I spawn to the east a little bit, I'm going to take this gap through here. If I spawn on the west a little bit more, there's 2 lanes that I can shoot through. And what I want to do is get myself in here and get myself lined up perfectly with that island that's in the center of B. So what I'm doing here is, one, any cruisers or battleships that are moving across the open lanes on the other side, I'm going to be getting visuals on. And if a destroyer is moving up, if I can't spot them first with my detection, I'll notice B being taken if a destroyer is moving in there. So what I'm doing here is kind of some preemptive scouting. Once I get kind of close to this island here, I'm going to step myself into the cap. And if I'm not spotted or I feel that there's no threat of enemies, I'm going to rush myself right up to that island and use that as protection. If I feel there's a destroyer around, I'm going to stay to the lateral. And the reason I'm doing that is the last thing I want is an enemy destroyer who's moving into this cap to get a flank on me and get a real easy shot of myself while I'm sitting here behind the island. But if I'm running the border to the islands, I'm going to spot the enemy from at least a distance, 6 kilometers. And I'll be able to kind of get myself out of the area and back out, right? I have multiple areas I can pull back through, right? There's 3 lanes that I can shoot myself out of B if the situation gets too hot. And all while doing this, I have multiple lanes that I can be sending my
Mr.
torpedoes
Swole,
down.
when we're coming into B here, and you're in a destroyer and you have B, it's under wraps and everything, and you're doing your whole spotty spot thing like we normally do as a destroyer, because that's your job. Spot things first. How are you going to, other than spotting and capping, how are you going to help out your team here in a destroyer?
So another great way, we talked about Citadel alleys. You can use your smoke screen selflessly to secure and block the enemy's line of sight of getting your battleships and capital ships as they're moving across that Citadel alley.
We're going to use our smoke unselfishly.
Yes, we're going to use that unselfish smoke.
Oh my God, it's somebody who knows how to smoke a battleship up.
When moving over to A, what I like to do first thing in a destroyer, again, is get myself up and use my detection to my advantage again, and try to get as much line of sight and enemy spotting potential as I can as I'm making my way over to A. So I'm going to take my ship on a path like such, covering the grounds that allows anyone who's trying to rush up to B in anything like a cruiser or battleship to get an early spot. And even so, I can spot potential battleships moving across these islands if they're close enough and I get myself up here. So I find that this is a great opportunity, allowing those big ships to get the early damage across before any even of the caps are even contested. And if you can get lucky and allow maybe a focused fired shot to land on a battleship and take it out of the game before I've even got over to the cap, well, you're going to have a clear advantage for the rest of the game, and that should help to ensure the victory. So, I might be able to do the zigzag approach, but I kind of advise against doing that. Reason being is as you get up through and you actually get yourself into the A cap, you're going to be only mere feet from the enemy. So if there is somebody up there, you're ensuring yourself a quick trip back to port. And again, survivability is kind of the name of the game. So I do advise going against that approach, unless you're working with a division mate where you can kind of sit there at the mouth and they can communicate to you as they're traveling this more reasonable peripheral path into A to blockade. So as I'm making my way around this island, here's my first line of sight opening that allows me to see the enemies in A.
Hashtag Turd Island.
Right, yeah, passing through over across Turd Island here. If I notice as I'm moving towards this cap, right, I'm going to get myself positioned as if I'm going to take it. And I notice that these lanes are clear from ships such as other destroyers, and I'm not being popped up as detected. I can move in through and pass through. If I notice all of a sudden that my detection comes up, or I notice that the enemy force over here is very large, I'm able to easily turn away and back myself behind a rock, again allowing myself a safe exit that is going to give as much blocking to the enemy line of fire as possible. Another approach that you can do entirely is just to start out from this side, right? So say I notice the approach there looks a little risky, I can come around this way on this island, get myself into the cap, and again run that clockwise peripheral border. And this will give me, again, shots across, maximizing my unexposed ship. I can extend a smoke plume from here, so if I have other capital ships, I can run this along the peripheral of the cap. So while I'm capping, I'm extending out an island that is giving a large shooting platform for my friendlies to go ahead and nuke any enemies that are coming into this A area or imposing a threat on me.
That's
all
right.
along while allowing myself a quick back out path that I can escape away from the enemies if in case these are.
Now let's go take a look at what B has to offer here on the south side spawn. With B here, when you're approaching, you kind of take the same approach as you are from the northern side. Just take it and reverse it to where, because the sightings is pretty much the same, the spotting's the same, the islands is maybe a little contoured, a little bit different on this side of B as opposed to the north side. Any differences that you notice here on the south side of B that would be different, that would be notable to let these guys know?
Not really, outside of knowing that for other ships outside of destroyers, the gap here out west that you're going to be left exposed, this gap that my ship is actually coming across right now, this is larger of a gap than the northern side has. So when you're in anything like a cruiser or battleship, make sure you're minding yourself as you're cutting across. Yes, the enemies have limited views through this lane, but you're wide open as you're passing through this area. So be mindful of that as you're making your way out west. If you're moving up through this channel, you might want to come up maybe with more a bow-on approach and then wait for the enemy to make their move. And once they're behind the rocks, then you can go ahead and turn yourselves out. But yeah, the lines of approach here moving into B are much like that from the north, except mirrored, right? I'm going to use that extension, stay to the peripheral of the cap. If I notice it's clear, I have backup routes. I have 3 lanes here just as well to move from. If it looks like there's nobody in the area at all, I can move myself up to the island and allow myself to set up for either a rush approach over to A through the channel or a rush approach out east to go for C. All right,
so in all fairness, when I'm playing a battleship and I'm not going to C, I like to stay toward these islands here, toward B, to where I'm actionable. I can shoot this line and this line and this line here. I can shoot here and protect my destroyer so he is able to get a cap on. He will spot for me if he's a smart player. he will spot for his battleships, and he will come back and smoke if it needed. Now, as we look here in towards C from the south side, the sea kind of plays the same. I tend to come out a little bit away from this island because I know that these guys are going to be here. They're not going to be able to torp me, which means I'm going to be able to have advantage from the south side than I am from the north side. I can throw my torps right here on that edge, and hopefully somebody's coming across. Maybe they're coming across the backside. I see a lot of this coming from the backside of Charlie across, straight broadside all the way across. And then they don't even come in to sea, and they turn around behind this island, and then they come back. So you have opportunities to punish people for being broadside. Now, when you're playing as a battleship here or a cruiser here in Charlie, there are several things that you can do. You can push, you can slow down. Number one, you can slow down and shoot on whatever's in here. Obviously, destroyers first. They are priority. You can also shoot on the cruisers and then the battleships. And if you are overwhelmed and you are in a battleship and a cruiser and you've gone too deep, you find yourself going too deep, boys. Guess what, my friend? You have a built-in natural escape route where you will be protected from left and the right sides and going down the beautiful channel here, where you have to worry about two sight lines, left on the left side of the island, right side of Lion's Head Bay, and back behind you. Those are the three worries going in the channel. Torpedoes are always a worry, so are guns. So, Mr. Swole, as we close out here tonight, we want to reiterate just a few things. If you're in a big, slow battleship, you're probably going to want to go to A, because that's where most of the action on this map is going to take place. You can and have a valid reason for going to C if you are in a big, slow battleship, but just know that if you go there, you're putting yourself way out of the game. This map is very unique. I like this map for the C channel, for the A channel. I've had battles where all the action took place at A. There's nothing at C. Nobody went to C or B, and all 12 boats on each team were at A. I've seen it where all 12 boats are at C. I've seen it where all 12 boats are gone to B. I've seen it so many different ways, and these are some of the basic ideas that we would like to impart on you. We'd also like to thank you for tuning in for this episode 4 of Warship Strategy with Mr. Swole and myself, Sir Venom IK. You guys can follow me over at Sir_Venom_IK over on the Twitter. You can also follow me, hit me up on the Twitch channel if you have any more questions, twitch.tv/SirVenomIK. If you guys want to see any particular maps in the future, please like, comment, subscribe down below, and tell us what map you would like us to tackle as we move further into this series. So thank you very much for watching. Get out there. We'll see y'all on the maps. Mr. Swole, take us on out, buddy.
May RNGesus bless you all, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, I gotta get those beads off.
Because I spit venom.
We are the Global Gym Purple Cobras, and we will.
Good.
What do you mean?
God, could we have spawned any closer together?